Chapter 32-46. He didn't know why these people came to knock on their Qin clan's door. For a moment, the gatekeeper looked at those people with fear, and in the next moment, he finally knew why these people came. Go! Let the ghost doctor come out. Our 7 martial sects people specially came to invite him up the mountain. One of the 2 middle-aged men shouted and signaled the gatekeeper to go in and call the ghost doctor out. Hearing this, the gatekeeper quickly ran inside and quickly reported the matter to the housekeeper. After the housekeeper reported, he quickly went to the master of the main courtyard. Before they came to report, the master of the Qin clan already knew from the secret guards that the 7 martial sects people had come. He didn't go to ask Fengzhou to come out, but instead stepped outside. Master, outside. When the housekeeper bumped into him, he quickly wanted to say, but was stopped by the master of the Qin clan. I know, let's go. Follow me outside to have a look. He signaled and strode outside. On the other side, after eldest young Master Qin and second young Master Qin heard the news, they also prepared to go outside to have a look. However, when second young Master Qin was about to get up, he was stopped by eldest young Master Qin. Although you have been recuperating for a few days, your body hasn't recovered. It's better not to go out, just stay here. I'll go and have a look first. After saying this, eldest young Master Qin went outside first. Fengzhou didn't know what was going on outside. At this time, she was still in the space, because the ghost doctor living in the Qin clan had indeed saved a lot of people recently. The people in the city still had a good impression of her. Because of this, when they heard that the 7 martial sects people wanted to bring the ghost doctor up the mountain, someone first quietly ran to the city lord's mansion to report what happened here. When the master of the Qin clan arrived, the Qin clan's door also opened. Some people in the clan also heard the news and rushed over, standing behind the master of the Qin clan. However, when they saw the people who surrounded the Qin clan's eyes couldn't help but flash. So it's the 3rd master and 5th master of the 7 martial sect. Master Qin looked at the 2 leaders and smiled. He cupped his hands and bowed to them. You 2 have come from afar. Why don't you come in and have a cup of tea? Seeing Patriarch Qin's calm and steady demeanor, the eyes of the 2 leaders only flashed, and their gloomy complexions didn't ease up much. They stared at Patriarch Qin and said in a strange tone, Patriarch Qin has good means, a ghost doctor came to your house, but you actually hid him and didn't see him. Today, us 2 brothers came to invite this ghost doctor to our 7 martial sect. Patriarch Qin, don't waste time, quickly invite that ghost doctor out. Listening to these words, Patriarch Qin smiled. Hee, I don't understand what you 2 are talking about. How can a guest of my Qin family become a person that the 7 martial sect wants? As soon as the 2 men heard this, their complexions turned cold, and a vicious aura overflowed from their bodies. Patriarch Qin, do you want to be enemies with our 7 martial sect? Who in the surrounding towns and cities doesn't know that the 7 martial sect's battle prowess is formidable? For no reason, why would my Qin clan become enemies with the 7 martial sect? Patriarch Qin's voice paused. He looked at them and said, although my Qin clan doesn't want to easily become enemies with others, if others bully my Qin clan won't let it go. Won't let it go. Chapter 32-47. I have long heard that Patriarch Qin's Qin family fist is very powerful. Today, I would like to exchange a few moves with Patriarch Qin. One of the middle-aged men walked out, his eyes locked on Patriarch Qin. This Qin will accompany you to the end. Patriarch Qin calmly said and stepped forward. A large open space was quickly cleared in front of the Qin family mansion, and the surrounding people automatically retreated a little. Seeing that the 2 were about to fight, some people were worried for the Qin family, and some people had a look of schadenfreude. Young Master Qin watched his father step forward and fight with the middle-aged man, and he could not help but worry. Although he knew that his father's strength was not weak, but the opponent was the third sect master of the Seven Martial Sect. His strength was ranked third among the 7 sect masters. If he fought with his father, who knew who would win and who would lose? Patriarch Qin slightly rolled up his sleeves and stuffed them into his sleeves. Because it was a fist fight, he did not hold a weapon in his hand. He just squatted in a horse stance and assumed a fighting stance. That 7 martial sect's disciple's eyes slightly flashed, and in the next moment, he tightly clenched his fists and suddenly rushed forward. Along with the beginning of his attack, a burst of profound chi aura emerged from his tightly clenched fists, and with a whoosh, that airflow swept out, bringing along a frightening hidden strength. However, Patriarch Qin, who had assumed a stance, did not dodge, but met the other party's attack head-on. His fists were also tightly clenched, and a spiritual aura visible to the naked eye emerged on his fists. As the two fought, the aura of the two became more and more powerful. Pang! Pang pang! As the sound of the fist hitting the ground fell, a faint muffled groan could be heard. As Patriarch Qin waved his fist, the unpredictable attacks made the middle-aged man of the 7 martial sect unable to resist, and he retreated step by step, dodging in all directions. The fight between the two gradually became one side attacking, and the other side being beaten, which made the surrounding people somewhat dumbfounded. They knew that Patriarch Qin's strength was very strong, but they did not expect that even the 5th sect master of the 7 martial sect was not his opponent. Patriarch Qin clenched his fist and fiercely punched out. A visible spiritual aura wrapped around his fist, and it made a sharp whistling sound as it struck towards the middle-aged man. Bang! His movements were too fast, and Patriarch Qin's fist was also too fast. It was so fast that he didn't even have time to avoid it. He could only take the punch head-on. Ah! As the fist landed, a blood-curdling scream rang out. He was sent flying 7 to 8 meters away, and the fist landed on his stomach. Although it wasn't a fatal blow, it still caused him to bend over and kneel on the ground with a plop. His face was pale, and he couldn't say anything for a while. Third brother. When the other middle-aged man saw this, he couldn't help but be shocked. He quickly went forward to help him up. Third brother, are you okay? The lips of the middle-aged man, who was ranked third, trembled slightly. He felt that the pain had not yet dissipated, and he could not speak. Thank you for letting me win. Patriarch Qin retracted his fist and let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, he cupped his hands and said to the two people. When they heard that, the two of them glared at Patriarch Qin at the same time. After a long while, the middle-aged man helped his third brother to the side and handed him over to someone else. Then, he looked at Patriarch Qin. Chapter 32:48. Hearing this, Patriarch Qin slightly frowned. Although he didn't want to be enemies with them, they were forcing him step by step. If he backed down, how could the Qin family have a foothold in the city? At that moment, he said in a deep voice, "Okay. However, if 5th sect master loses, you have to leave with your people immediately." No problem. That person replied easily, but there was a fierce glint in that pair of sinister eyes. At that moment, his figure flashed forward. As he moved, he gathered profound energy in his hands and clenched them into fists. Then, he fiercely punched out his powerful fist towards the patriarch of the Qin family. The Qin family's eldest young master and the others watched the two fight one-on-one and were slightly relieved. The 7 martial sect's 7 sect masters were ranked based on strength. Since the sect master ranked 3rd was defeated, the sect master ranked 5th was naturally nothing to be afraid of. It was because they thought of this point that when the two of them exchanged blows, almost everyone felt that Patriarch Qin would definitely win. However, when they saw the two fists colliding, the profound energy aura in front of the fists bounced the two of them a distance away, and they couldn't help but be slightly surprised. They didn't expect the 5th sect master's strength to be so strong. If it was someone else from the Qin family, no one would be his opponent, right? As they were thinking, they saw the profound chi of both sides colliding with each other. They watched as they rushed forward again and fought with their bare fists. The sound of fists hitting each other was heard. After a while, when they saw the seven martial sect's fifth sect master's fist landed heavily on Patriarch Qin's chest, and Patriarch Qin groaned in pain. His footsteps were slightly disordered and his figure retreated, but he couldn't fight back. They couldn't help but feel strange. Strange, why didn't Patriarch Qin fight back? Patriarch Qin's face doesn't look right. Ah! He's bleeding. Patriarch Qin's chest is bleeding. Everyone was discussing. When they saw Patriarch Qin being kicked to the ground, they saw that there was a wound on his chest that was bleeding. Father! Patriarch! Patriarch Qin was shocked and quickly ran forward to help him up. Eldest young Master Qin's eyes swept over and saw a sharp blade between the man's fingers. He couldn't help but tremble in anger and his eyes turned red. You used a dirty trick. How despicable to use a sharp blade to hurt people. A dignified disciple of the seven martial sect actually dared to do such a despicable and shameless thing in front of so many people. It was really shameful. At this moment, everyone noticed that there was indeed a sharp blade between the fingers of the fifth sect master that were clenched into fists. When they saw this, they suddenly understood. It was no wonder that Patriarch Qin's entire body had changed after that punch. It turned out that the punch was not just a punch, but a blade had also pierced into his chest. It could only be said that the people of the seven martial sect were too ruthless. They wanted to kill Patriarch Qin. Not good. There's poison on the knife. One of the patriarch's expression changed drastically. Looking at the fainted patriarch whose face was purple, his heart sank. He immediately stood up and shouted angrily, "Take out the antidote." Antidote? I have the antidote. Do you dare to feed it to him? The middle-aged man sneered, glanced at them, and said, "It's better to let the ghost doctor come out as soon as possible and obediently come with us. Otherwise, Patriarch Qin will only be the first, and it's hard to say who will be the second." Chapter 32:49. Who is it that wants me to obediently follow them? Hearing this voice, everyone's heart couldn't help but tremble. They looked towards the source of the voice, and with one look, their eyes were filled with amazement. They saw that the person who came was a beautiful woman, dressed in a dazzling red dress. Her bearing was cold and elegant, and her every movement naturally exuded a calm and noble aura. Listening to her words, she was the ghost doctor who had been the talk of the town recently. During this time, there weren't many people who had actually seen the ghost doctor. At first, people only knew that she was a woman in tattered clothes who walked with a limp, but they didn't expect that the person who came out today was actually such a beautiful woman. When the people of the seven martial sect saw Fingzhou, their eyes flashed with amazement, especially the middle-aged man who was ranked fifth. He stared at Fingzhou as if she was his prey. "You are the ghost doctor." However, Fingzhou, who came out, only glanced at those people indifferently before retracting her gaze. She came to the side of the Qin family's patriarch who was being supported. She stretched out her hand to feel his pulse, then took out a pill and fed it to him. "First, send the patriarch in to rest. Let the house's doctors clean up his wounds, I will go over in a moment," she said to the Qin family's eldest young master. "Okay." After hearing her words, the Qin family's eldest young master nodded and quickly helped his father in. Behind them, the second young master who called Fingzhou over stood behind the others. His face was still somewhat pale, but his eyes were glaring fiercely at the people of the seven martial sect. Because he knew that he couldn't help much, he didn't step forward and just stood behind the crowd. "Ghost Doctor, they are the people of the seven martial sect. You should go in quickly. If you stay here, I'm afraid that an elder whispered to the side, worried that once she came out, things would get out of hand. After all, a woman with a beautiful appearance and medical skills that could bring the dead back to life was being watched by too many people, and she didn't have the ability to protect herself. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled slightly. People of the Seven Martial Sect. She looked at the two people in front of her and asked, "Are you the ones looking for me?" "Not bad." That middle-aged man who was ranked 5th stared at Fengjiu. His eyes flashed with an inexplicable radiance. "We came to invite the ghost doctor to our Seven Martial Sect as a guest, but the Qin clan's people don't know what's good for them. I think the ghost doctor should be a smart person. He should know what's best for you. Obediently follow you." Fengjiu chuckled. Her clear eyes turned and landed on that person. "However, with just the two of you, this is really not enough. Moreover, I have never been merciful to those who offend me. If you know what's good for you, leave behind an arm, an eye, or a leg each, then I can spare your lives. Otherwise." Listening to these words, the Seven Martial Sect's people became angry. Someone angrily cursed, "What an ungrateful bastard." Before he could finish speaking, he heard a muffled groan. A silver needle had pierced into the middle of that person's eyebrows. Only a little bit of blood was left. That person's body stiffened. After a few seconds, he fell down. Bang! The death of this Seven Martial Sect's disciple made the surrounding people suck in a breath of cold air. Some of them couldn't believe their eyes as they looked at that beautiful woman. They couldn't believe that she had actually killed that man with just one move. Chapter 3250. Even the members of the Qin clan, who had been with Fengjiu for a few days, were extremely astonished and shocked at this scene. They did not know that the ghost doctor was actually a hidden expert. With just a raise of her hand, she directly killed a disciple of the Seven Martial Sect. Among the disciples of the Seven Martial Sect who were brought here today, which one of them did not have some ability? But unexpectedly, they were killed in seconds. This was too shocking. The two leaders of the Seven Martial Sect suddenly recovered. Looking at the dead disciple, a ruthless killing intent emerged in their eyes. What a good ghost doctor. Refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, right? Good. I'd like to see what ability you have to be so rampant. As soon as the voice fell, the man ranked 5th moved his body and rushed forward. His tightly clenched fist contained a powerful force and attacked Fengjiu, who was standing there with an indifferent expression. Seeing this attack, many people around were nervous. If this punch landed on the ghost doctor, even if she did not die, she would be crippled. It seemed that the 5th leader had the intention to kill. "Ghost doctor, be careful." The elder standing beside Fengjiu shouted. Even second young Master Qin, who was standing at the back, was shocked when he saw this. He was about to step forward and pull her back when he saw the shocking scene below. "Cloud-swallowing beast, I want one of his hands," Fengjiu said indifferently. He did not even move. But in the next moment, the cloud-swallowing beast jumped out from the space. Accompanied by a flash of light, a roar was heard. At the same time, the beast opened its big mouth and directly bit off the arm that the man waved. "Ayo! Ah!" The roar of the beast was powerful and accompanied by a terrifying pressure. Almost as soon as the roar came out, the surrounding people only felt a shock in their hearts. The blood in their bodies surged up fiercely. Their eardrums hurt and their heads hurt. In the next moment, one by one, they cried out in pain. Their legs went soft and they knelt down, holding their heads and screaming. "Ah!" Hissed out at this moment, the cloud-swallowing beast bit off the man's arm from his shoulder and threw him more than 10 meters away. The 5th leader who was thrown out fainted from the heart-wrenching pain. He fell to the ground and did not move, as if he was dead. At this time, no one cared about him. The Seven Martial Sect's people were all screaming miserably as they were unable to stand up. Especially when they saw the sacred beast that had landed steadily on the ground with a bloody arm in its mouth, they were so scared that their 3 souls and 7 spirits had disappeared. One after another, they cried out in alarm. Super divine beast. Super divine beast. Ah! Super divine beast. Roar. The cloud-swallowing beast. The cloud-swallowing martial sex people once again, the cloud-swallowing beast, formed of the martial sect, the martial sect. Spare me. Spare me. The commoners who had retreated far away for fear of being affected were all stunned. Among those people, there were even a few people from the aristocratic families who were hiding in the city. There were also the city lords who had rushed over. Only, they did not expect that a super divine beast would appear in this small city. Super divine beast. This was a powerful divine beast that only appeared in legends. How could it appear in their city? This ghost doctor, just who was she? A woman, who actually had such a powerful contracted beast. Chapter 32:51. The members of the Qin family standing beside and behind Fengjiu were completely unaffected. They just stared blankly at the scene in front of them. Also, the pressure of the cloud-swallowing divine beast was directed forward, and it was extremely suppressive towards the people of the Seven Martial Sect. It didn't even hurt the ordinary people behind them. Therefore, the people who were holding their heads and screaming were only the people of the Seven Martial Sect. However, what shocked them was that the ghost doctor actually had such a powerful contracted beast. Moreover, it was able to bite off one of the fifth sect leader's arms. This scene happened too quickly, and they did not even have time to stop it. They were afraid that after today, the Qin family and the Seven Martial Sect would truly be at odds. Based on the Seven Martial Sect style, they would not let this matter go so easily. However, in this situation, the ghost doctor could not be blamed. If she did not intervene, would she just wait to be humiliated? Fengjiu did not know that the elders were already thinking about the future. She only did what she felt should be done. Since others came to bully her, she naturally would not accept it. It was also from this Seven Martial Sect's people that she saw that this so-called sect was not a righteous sect. Therefore, she made a decision in her heart. Since this Seven Martial Sect had a good prestige in this area, then, if the matter got out of hand, before she left, she would definitely settle this trouble for the Qin clan. She would definitely not pat her buttocks and leave a mess for the Qin clan to have a headache over. Therefore, she slowly walked forward and came to the side of the swallowing cloud beast. Her gaze indifferently swept over the unconscious fifth sect leader, and then looked at the injured third sect leader who was being supported by the others. She revealed a smile. However, at this moment, the smile on her face was as terrifying as a demon in the eyes of the Seven Martial Sect's people. What about you? Do you want to leave something behind? Or do you want to leave your life here? She stroked the swallowing cloud beast's head with one hand and stroked its hair, while calmly staring at the pale third sect leader. Some people had to use their strength to suppress others. When it was time to be arrogant, they had to be. Since she had the ability to be arrogant, she naturally would not shrink back and let things go easily. Still, what do you want? The third sect leader did not expect that such a beautiful lady would be able to summon a sacred beast the moment she opened her mouth. Looking at the smile in her eyes, he could not help but shiver. How terrifying! This ghost doctor is so scary. He was simply a demon from hell. She wasn't a doctor at all. She must be a demon. You're asking me what I want. Fengjiu chuckled. It's not that I want anything, but that you all have to pay a price. She stared at the third sect leader and said, Are you going to do it yourself? Or should I help you? Seeing the bloodthirsty smile on her lips, the third order master felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. He took a step back as his intuition told him that if he had not made his move, she would have ended his life right there and then. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and asked, Will you let us go if I make a move? If I'm satisfied, apologize to the Qin clan and promise that you won't come here again, I'll let you go, Fengjiu said with a smile. Chapter 32:52. Don't worry, I've always kept my word. Fengjiu said calmly. Seeing this, the third clan leader looked towards the Qin clan and cupped his hands in greeting, saying, I have offended you today, I hope everyone can forgive me. Today, the ghost doctor has given me a way out. From today onwards, I will no longer find trouble with the Qin clan and the ghost doctor. When the Qin clan heard this, they looked at each other in dismay, probably not knowing what to say as they stared blankly for a moment. Then, in that instant, they saw the third clan leader take a deep breath and personally gouge out one of his own eyeballs. Ah! Some of the more cowardly people screamed as they saw the bloody scene and fainted from fright. Even the Qin clan members, as well as some of the aristocratic families and city lords who were hidden among the commoners, gasped when they saw this scene. This person was ruthless, to actually dig out one of his own eyeballs just like that. How could they know that the third clan leader had made this decision after much consideration? With that sacred beast here, and the ghost doctor's mysterious skills, and what she had said earlier, if he did not do it himself and the ghost doctor did it, who knew if she would cut off one of his arms or one of his legs? Or was it to take his life? Compared to his arms and legs, he felt that losing an eye was considered light. At least his 4 limbs were still intact, and losing an eye did not mean that he could not see anything. But at this moment, the sharp pain in his spine caused his body to sway, and he staggered back a few steps unsteadily. Ghost Doctor, today, I have eyes but did not recognize Mount Tai. I will gouge out one of my own eyes to apologize to you. Is that enough? He looked towards Fengjiu and asked. Fengjiu looked at him and nodded, take your people and leave. Hearing this, the third clan leader heaved a sigh of relief and quickly took his people away. Not long after, the people surrounding the Qin clan disappeared without a trace. Fengjiu stroked Tun Yun's head and looked at the figures of those people leaving, his eyes flashing. There was no hurry. She still wanted to stay here for a few more days, and she wanted to see if they really didn't dare to provoke her again. If they did, then she wouldn't let them off so easily like she did today. However, according to her guess, one of the 7 martial sect leaders had lost an eye, while the other had lost an arm. She reckoned that the others would not give up like this. Let's just wait and see. She patted Tun Yun's head. Tun Yun wagged its tail, and with a flash of light, it shrunk to the size of a small pet and followed her obediently. Go in. Fengjiu said to Patriarch Qin. As he walked in, he looked at second young Master Qin, who had a complicated look in his eyes. He smiled and said, What's wrong? Are you scared? Second young Master Qin shook his head. No, it's just that I didn't expect you to be so powerful. He already knew that she wasn't ordinary, but he didn't expect her to hide it so deeply that she even had a sacred beast. Fengjiu smiled and walked inside. At the same time, he patted Qin Mu's shoulder and said, There are many things you don't know. He smiled and walked inside, arriving at Patriarch Qin's courtyard. The Qin clan members outside also followed in. Not long after, the door closed again, isolating them from the outside world. The city lord and several people from the aristocratic families looked at the closed door and were all stunned for a while. It seemed that there was nothing for them to do. Especially the city lord. He originally wanted to come and mediate, but who knew that things would develop in a way that was beyond his expectations. It was bloody and brutal, and the words he prepared to say to calm them down were all useless. Chapter 32:53. After entering, Fengjiu went to Patriarch Qin's courtyard. Seeing the housekeeper standing guard there, she asked, Has the wound been cleaned? Reporting to Ghost Doctor, the wound has been cleaned by the house's doctor, but the patriarch has not woken up yet. The housekeeper quickly replied. Hearing this, Fengjiu nodded slightly and walked in. Inside, Patriarch Qin's wife and daughter were also there. Seeing her arrive, they quickly stood up to welcome her. Ghost Doctor, how is my master? Will he be okay? Madame Qin asked worriedly. Don't worry, I just gave him a detoxification pill outside. Fengjiu said as she stepped forward. Once again, she took the patriarch's pulse. Looking at the already bandaged wound, she smiled. The poison in his body is not a problem. Later, I will write a prescription and he will be fine after drinking 2 sets of medicine. Hearing her say this, Madame Qin and the others breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he was fine, as long as he was fine. Fengjiu turned and walked out. Her steps paused, and she said to eldest young master Qin and several elders, Eldest young master, elders, please come out for a moment. Seeing this, they looked at each other and followed her outside. Outside, seeing her standing in the courtyard, one of the elders asked, Ghost Doctor, what are your orders? Fengjiu looked at them and said, these few days, everyone should pay more attention. In addition, it is best to send someone to secretly observe the movements of the 7 martial sect. If there is anything strange, you must tell me immediately. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Ghost Doctor, rest assured, we will arrange this. That's good. Later, send someone to get a prescription from me and boil some medicine for the patriarch to drink. She instructed, then turned and left. After she left, the elders also discussed. Finally, they said to eldest young master Qin, you stay here and take care of your father. We will arrange the other things. Saying this, they also left. As the night gradually darkened, the city was still brightly lit. Today's scene had a huge impact on everyone. Even though the night was getting darker, they still did not feel sleepy. In the city lord's mansion, the city lord pondered and said to the middle-aged man beside him, what is the origin of this ghost doctor? Was it true that no one knew? As a woman, and at such a young age, she actually has a sacred beast. This is truly inconceivable. It's not just the city lord who is curious about the ghost doctor's background, everyone else is the same. However, many people have sent people to inquire about it, and the information they obtained is limited. As the middle-aged man spoke, his eyes flashed. It's really a great fortune for the Qin clan to be able to befriend such a person. The middle-aged man paused for a moment before continuing, Patriarch Qin is injured. Tomorrow, Patriarch might as well bring some gifts and pay him a visit. Hearing this, the city lord was startled for a moment, then reacted, that makes sense. Tomorrow, I will go to the Qin family to visit Patriarch Qin. He smiled and said, you should also go back and rest. Come with me tomorrow. Yes. The middle-aged man smiled. He stood up and cupped his hands in salute before leaving. At the same time, the other aristocratic families also had the same idea. Meanwhile, in the Qin family, Fengjiu was lying on her bed, deep in thought. She stared at the ceiling of her bed. No one knew what she was thinking about. Only when she felt sleepy did she close her eyes and sleep. Chapter 32:54. Ghost Doctor. The front hall is filled with people, all of them are the family heads of the city's aristocratic families, as well as the city lord. They said they want to meet Ghost Doctor. I wonder if Ghost Doctor would like to meet them. The housekeeper asked, slightly lowering his gaze, not daring to look directly at her. I don't have any dealings with them in the past, and they aren't patients, so I won't meet them. You can go and reject them. Fengjiu said, continuing to eat breakfast. Yes. Hearing this, the housekeeper didn't say anything else, but respectfully responded and retreated. Not long later, second young master Qin came to the courtyard. Seeing that she was still eating breakfast, he also sat down at the table. Ghost Doctor, my father woke up this morning. He had just come back after seeing his father, his spirit was quite good, and his consciousness had also recovered. And, it's good that he's awake. Fengjiu nodded, looking at the second young master sitting at the table, smiling, it's good that you came to call me yesterday, otherwise, your father would be in trouble. Hearing this, second young Master Qin revealed a smile. It's good that Ghost Doctor doesn't blame me for disturbing. Actually, he had also heard that the situation at the front was not good, so he wanted to inform her, but he didn't expect that she would directly go to the front after hearing the news. The trouble came for me, so I should be the one to solve it. Fingzhou said, putting down her chopsticks, and had people clear the things on the table. Second young Master Qin looked at her, thought for a moment, and asked, Ghost Doctor, may I ask, where did you come from? Hearing this, Fingzhou looked at him, and asked with a smile that wasn't a smile, what do you think? Should be from some place that we don't know about. A sacred beast, this kind of contracted beast, according to what I know, even some sects that have been around for hundreds of years don't have one. Moreover, Ghost Doctor's medical skills can really be considered to be reviving the dead. This kind of medical skills, this kind of ability, definitely doesn't come from an ordinary place. A light flashed through his eyes, and he said, can Ghost Doctor tell me? Even if I did, you can't go there. Fengzhou shook his head and said, where I am, spirit cultivators are everywhere, but there are fewer black martial cultivators. At first, I didn't know how far I was from where I was, but after this period of time, I know a thing or two. She smiled and took a sip of the tea served by the servant. This place is also part of the upper realm, but it's thousands of miles away. Most importantly, there's an endless forest filled with ferocious beasts as a barrier. So, it's not very realistic for you to go there. Most of the people here were black martial cultivators, and their strength was not very strong, so they naturally could not cross that dangerous place. It was also because of this that the two sides were separated. Spirit cultivators would not come here, and black martial cultivators would not go there. Hearing this, second young Master Qin's eyes flashed. It was unknown what he was thinking. After a long while, he nodded. I understand. Seeing him like this, Fingzhou said, actually, you guys are doing pretty well here. There aren't that many strong practitioners, and the suppression of strength is not that strong. However, if there is some large sect that has been here for 100 years, I reckon there should be a way to go there. Saying this, she smiled, but I still don't recommend you guys go there. Chapter 32:55. Fengzhou looked at the sky and helplessly said, my master, an old man brought me here. She sighed and stood up, I still have a few patients today, so I won't talk to you anymore. I'm going to get busy first. Hearing this, second young Master Qin also stood up and walked out together with her. On the other side, after the 7 martial sects people returned to the sect, the other sect masters saw the appearance of the 2 people who returned. They couldn't help but be so angry that they fiercely slammed their fists on the table, smashing it. Preposterous. She actually dares to bully my 7 martial sects people. This Ghost Doctor really has a lot of guts. One of the sect masters angrily shouted. Looking at the pale third brother who was sitting at the side, he took a deep breath and the anger in his chest was difficult to quell. Seeing this, the third sect master bitterly smiled, Big brother, don't be angry, listen to me. He looked at the person in the main seat and said, that Ghost Doctor took a disciple's life the moment she acted, and it was done with a single silver needle. As for Old Fifth, his arm was bitten off by the contracted beast that the Ghost Doctor summoned. As for this eye of mine, it was dug out by myself. Hiss. You dug it out yourself. How did you? After everyone heard this, they couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air. They were very puzzled and shocked. What kind of person was she? That's why third brother dug out one of his eyes himself. If I didn't dig out his eye, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to come back alive to see you. The third sect master sighed, this Ghost Doctor, we can't provoke her. She's just a woman, how can we not provoke her? What kind of heavenly ability does she have? The sect master in the main seat said in a deep voice, his eyes filled with killing intent. You don't know, although she is a woman, her strength is unfathomable. Moreover, her contracted beast is not an ordinary contracted beast, but what? Seeing the fear in his eyes when he said this, they couldn't help but ask. The third sect master took a deep breath and suppressed the fear in his heart, then said, "It's a sacred beast, her contracted beast is a sacred beast." Hiss. Hearing this, their faces were filled with shock. Some of them even stood up and asked in a shrill voice, super divine beast. Are you sure? How could I be wrong? The third sect leader smiled bitterly. Once that sacred beast's aura was released, we were almost unable to withstand it. If not for the fact that the ghost doctor had a sacred beast protecting her, if not for the situation at that time, why would I have to dig out my own eyes to survive? The few of them fell silent, as if they were pondering over his words. After a long while, one of them said, "This ghost doctor really isn't simple. Sacred beast, looking at our place, I have never heard of anyone with a sacred beast. It's more than that. I feel that she's not from our side. She must have come from somewhere else. I just don't know where she came from. But one thing is for sure, we can't provoke her. Otherwise, it'll be too late for regrets." The third sect leader said with lingering fear. When they heard this, they looked at each other and said to the third sect leader, "After going out for a while, you seem to have become timid." Chapter 32:56. Listening to his words, several people's hearts were moved. This ghost doctor injured old 3 and old 5 like this. If we don't teach her a lesson, how can our 7 martial sect establish ourselves? What's more, I feel that if we use our brains, we can capture the ghost doctor and make her contract beast our 7 martial sects. That would be a great help. Second brother, you can't. Hearing this, the third sect master's face changed. I already agreed, I won't cause trouble for them anymore. He was really scared. They didn't personally experience it, so they didn't know that when he faced the ghost doctor, his heart was filled with fear. Old 3, your courage is too small. What's more, she caused you to dig out your own eye. How can we let this matter go? How about? His voice paused, looking at the others. If we can't do it openly, then we won't do it secretly. What do we say? Good. The others' eyes were filled with excitement. How can we be humiliated by a girl like this? We must teach her a lesson. As for that sacred beast, we will do it secretly, don't confront it. At that time, without the sacred beast's help, what can the ghost doctor do? Several people discussed in the hall. The more they talked, the more excited they became. Only the third sect master listened to their words. His face was pale, his eyes were filled with fear, and his heart was restless. He was thinking, if they really wanted to make a move against the ghost doctor, then he had to go out and lie low for a while. The ghost doctor's power was too strong, to the point that he couldn't walk out from her pressure, let alone think about scheming against her. They dared, but he didn't dare. 2 days later, the 7 martial sects people secretly sneaked into the city, and when they sneaked into the city, the Qin clan's people also received the news. After the clan elder told the eldest young master about this matter, he asked him to find Fingzhou and tell her about it. Eldest young master Qin came to the courtyard. Seeing Fingzhou sitting in the courtyard, he said, "Ghost doctor, the 7 martial sects people have begun to move." Fingzhou, who was reading a medicine book in the courtyard, heard this, put away the medicine book in her hand, and asked, "They came to the city again?" "Yes, the hidden guards sent by the elders have found out that they have secretly entered the city." First young master Qin looked at her and asked, "What should we do next?" Fengzhou walked slowly and gracefully in the courtyard. "You don't have to do anything. Just wait for them to come. Since they refuse to take the path to heaven, then don't blame her for opening the gates to hell for them." At night, the surroundings were pitch black and the streets were deserted. At this moment, the several 7 martial sect leaders came together and surrounded the Qin family with their people. Below the wall, the gatekeeper asked, "Have you drugged him?" "Don't worry, Big Brother. I've already bribed the servants to drug the water they drink. Now, they're probably sleeping like dead pigs, waiting to be slaughtered by us." Hearing this, the gate master nodded. "Very good. Lead a group of people and sneak in first. We'll be right behind you." "All right." After answering, he waved his hand and led a group of disciples to quietly enter the Chin family. However, when they jumped into the Chin family's gate, they faintly smelled a faint fragrance permeating the air. "Is this the fragrance of flowers coming from the garden? It smells pretty good," the person in front said, while walking inside. After making sure it was safe, he let the people behind him come in. Chapter 32:57. Therefore, when they suddenly collapsed one by one, the people behind them did not notice. What they saw was Tun Yun appearing out of nowhere and dragging the fallen people out one by one. Chin Mansion was silent. Tonight seemed to be quieter than any other night. Even the guards on night patrol could not be seen. It was not that they were not patrolling, but Fengjiu had instructed them not to go out tonight and not to come out even if they heard any commotion. Therefore, although they were curious about what had happened outside, they did not leave. They did not step out of their rooms. In a pavilion not far from the garden, Fengjiu, who was dressed in red, sat there and drank wine. She glanced at the unconscious people who were dragged out of the garden by Tun Yun. After knowing that these people had entered the city, she told the Chin clan members not to leave their rooms as soon as night fell. She had set up a lot of formations in the Chin clan and even used some medicine in the formations. As long as they dared to enter, she would be able to catch them all in one fell swoop. Looking at the disciples of the 7 martial school who were dragged out of various formations by Tun Yun, Fengjiu twitched the corners of her mouth. They dared to come with such little strength. The ignorant were really fearless. "Master, there seems to be no one in the formations," Tun Yun said and looked at her master in the pavilion. "They probably noticed, but it doesn't matter. Old Bai is guarding outside. Since they're here, they won't let any of them escape," Fengjiu said and put down her wine cup. She stood up and said, "Let's go and take a look." "Yes." Tun Yun responded and followed her out. Outside, there was no movement from the people who went in. This made the Great Gate Master and Second Gate Master, who were guarding outside, feel uneasy. Looking at the quiet Chin mansion, they frowned. Why is there no movement? Could something have happened? If something had happened, it would be impossible for there to be no movement. The two of them discussed for a while and said, "Why don't we send someone in to take a look?" "Okay." Therefore, the two of them beckoned for someone to go in and take a look. Who knew that the person would not return? After waiting for a while and not seeing that person return, the two men's expressions changed and they immediately said, "Something must have happened. Retreat." They raised their hands and were about to leave with their people when they suddenly heard a sound behind them. They turned around and saw a strange-looking snow-white horse. "Chee!" White snorted twice, flicked his tail and looked at those people. Then, he raised his head and raised his chin slightly, looking at them with an insufferably arrogant look. Then, he opened his mouth and said, "How dare you have designs on my master with your pathetic looks? Are you tired of living?" That 7 martial sect's disciple was dumbfounded as he looked at the white horse that could speak human language with a dumbfounded expression. His heart was startled as he involuntarily retreated. What kind of beast are you?" "I am your ancestor." White glanced at him with disdain. He opened his mouth to reveal his teeth and laughed. "You want to run? Don't waste your energy. Since you're already here, it would be strange if my master let you leave." Chapter 32:58. This is the sacred beast. No, this is a female beast, that sacred beast is a male beast. A terrified voice trembled as he looked at the squatting female beast, then looked at the talking white horse, and could not help but retreat. "Go!" The sect leader's expression changed, and he immediately gathered his qi, preparing to escape. Who knew? Just as he gathered his qi and his figure was in the air, Lao Bai's body changed, and he instantly flew into the air, swinging his tail and fiercely striking him down. Pang! Pooh! My master did not allow you to leave, why are you leaving? Lao Bai transformed into a dragon, circling in the air, looking at the figures that had been struck down by him. The female beast, Tun Yun, lazily stretched and stood up, walking around, a pair of ferocious and bloodthirsty eyes staring at the people who were preparing to escape. Those people were stared at by its gaze, and they only felt a strong pressure pressing down on their heads, causing their legs to go soft, and they fell to the ground. The two beasts, one in the air and one on the ground, stared at those people, until they saw a red figure appear out of nowhere, sitting on the wall and looking down. When the female beast saw Tun Yun, its eyes lit up, the ferocious look in its eyes disappeared, and it looked at it like a love-struck fool. Tun Yun caught a glimpse of its gaze, and the corner of its mouth twitched slightly. It fiercely glared at it, and turned its head away. Fengjiu saw the actions of the two contracted beasts, and smiled in his heart. His gaze shifted, and fell on the people below, sect leader of the Seven Martial Sect. The sect leader, who had been thrown down by Tun Yun, heard this voice, turned around, and could not help but be shocked. You are the ghost doctor. That's right, I am the ghost doctor. Fengjiu said leisurely, sitting on the wall, her entire person looked very leisurely, one hand supporting the wall, the other holding a wine gourd, slightly raising her head to take a sip of wine. Her posture was indescribably elegant, and indescribably beautiful. Under the moonlight, the red-clothed beauty sat alone on the wall, drinking wine. Her every movement exuded confidence and laziness. A trace of wine slipped from the corner of her mouth, slipped into her clothes, and disappeared. This scene was extremely captivating, and it caused one's mouth to go dry. However, at this moment, in the eyes of the Seven Martial Sect's members, she was an extremely dangerous figure, so how could they have any other thoughts? I originally thought that as long as all of you didn't cause trouble, I would let your Seven Martial Sect off. But I never expected that all of you would seek death. Since it's like this, then don't blame me for being impolite. As soon as her voice fell, her eyes narrowed as she stared at the two Seven Martial sect masters. She then said to the devouring Cloud Mother, "Kill them." Almost as soon as she finished speaking, the mother beast leaped up and slashed its claws at the two of them. Roar! A low roar resounded like a clap of thunder, causing the hearts of some of the people in the city who were paying attention to the Qin family to tremble. Ah! Mournful screams streaked across the night sky in the next moment, but quickly fell. The smell of blood permeated the air, and the two bodies on the ground fell down and twitched. Two pairs of eyes were still looking in front of them with horror, and even when they breathed their last, they could not close their eyes. Chapter 32:59. Well done. Fengjiu curled his lips, glanced at the two dead men, then glanced at the Seven Martial Sect's disciples who were kneeling on the ground in fear. Master, do you want to kill them too? The mother beast licked its claws and asked Fengjiu, its bloodthirsty eyes staring at the disciples. No, spare our lives. When the disciples heard this, they quickly kowtowed and begged for mercy. Fengjiu's eyes moved slightly, and said, I don't want to kill you, but you have to cripple your cultivation. Cripple my cultivation. This. What? Don't you want to keep your life? Then. Before she finished her words, she heard those people quickly say, No, we want to keep our lives, we want to keep our lives. Compared to their cultivation, they wanted to keep their lives. What's more, if they crippled their cultivation, they could cultivate again, at least there was a glimmer of hope. Thus, the 20 to 30 people crippled their cultivation one by one, only to see the aura of Xian Qi emitted from their body, like a deflated balloon. One by one, their faces turned pale. Fengjiu glanced at them, and said coldly, this is the only chance to live, get lost. Hearing this, someone trembled and said, our other sect masters. Do you think they can still live? Fengjiu sneered. Hearing these words, those people finally gave up. One by one, they helped each other up and quickly left. Watching them leave, the mother beast could not help but scratch its head. Master, why did you let them go? Wouldn't it be easier to kill them? It really did not know what humans were thinking. If it was it would directly kill these people, and end all troubles. Fengjiu smiled and looked at it. You've been with me for some time now, but I haven't given you a name yet. Let's call you Lightning. The cloud-swallowing beast was a ferocious beast of the wind attribute. It was extremely fast, so it was appropriate to name it Lightning. Hearing this, the mother beast was slightly taken aback. It didn't understand why its name was mentioned, but when it heard the name, it was overjoyed. It immediately said, Lightning thanks Master for bestowing a name. Fengjiu waved his hand and placed Senior White back into space. After that, he took Tunyun back to the estate and removed the formations within it. In the end, he asked Tunyun to summon the elders of the Qin clan. When those elders arrived at the mansion's garden, they saw that the several seven martial sect masters had already been killed, as well as the pile of unconscious disciples of the seven martial sect. They were all stunned. Ghost Doctor, I'll leave these people to you. From today onwards, you don't have to worry about the seven martial sect coming to find trouble with you. Even if there are a few of them alive, they won't have the guts to provoke your Qin family. As Fengjiu spoke, he glanced at the people on the ground. He then looked at the Qin clan and said, I've been here for a while. I originally planned to leave after treating 100 people, but I have to leave early today. The ghost doctor is leaving. They were shocked and couldn't help but look at her. Yes. She nodded and said, currently, the patients I've treated are all fine, and I've stayed here for some time. Now that I've helped you get rid of the trouble, it's time for me to leave. Second young Master Qin walked out of nowhere, looked at her and asked, after the ghost doctor leaves, will you come back? Chapter 3260. Hearing that, second young Master Qin looked deeply at her and said, then take care. He hoped that he would have the chance to see her again in the future. She nodded slightly and said, I'll leave tomorrow. After I've settled the matters in this courtyard, you can all go back and rest. With that, she returned to the courtyard first. She had originally planned to stay here until she had treated 100 people before leaving. However, she suddenly felt like visiting other places tonight and decided to leave. After she left, the elders looked at those unconscious people and couldn't help but exchange glances. The next day, Fengjiu woke up at noon. After she had her meal, she went to visit Master Qin and bid him farewell at the same time. The Qin family sent her out of the city and only returned after watching her leave. It was also because of this that many people in the city knew that the ghost doctor had left. After leaving the city, Fengjiu sat on the rainbow glass feather and flew. She enjoyed the cool breeze that blew against her face as she took out some wine to drink. She was really aimless here and didn't know where to go. Fortunately, there weren't many places left for the 100 people. Otherwise, she really wouldn't know where to find them. She flew all the way and swept past the nearby towns. When night fell, she casually found a place to rest. When the sun rose, she continued to fly and leave. Just like that, until the evening of the second day. Seeing that the sky was about to darken again, she saw a village in the distance and planned to stay there for the night. However, when she neared the village, she couldn't help but stop in her tracks. Her eyes flickered as she looked at the village in front of her. In front of her was a small village with 20 to 30 houses. It looked very much like an ordinary village. However, when she neared, she inexplicably felt a cold air pervading the surroundings. She frowned and stopped in her tracks. Instead of going forward, she turned around and left this place. Based on her intuition, this village wasn't normal. If she went in, she would probably get into trouble again. Therefore, after some hesitation, she still chose to avoid it. Normal people wouldn't be able to live in such a cold place. Even if there was, it could only be something that couldn't see the light of day. After she left the place, she didn't go forward. Instead, she retreated to a place about 500 meters away. She lit a fire and rested there until the sky turned completely dark. In the pitch-black night, faint howls could be heard. In the middle of the night, she leaned against the hillside to rest. In front of her was a bonfire that emitted a warm aura. Throughout the night, even with her eyes closed, she felt several things trying to get close to her. However, in the end, they all left after hesitating. Furthermore, she had summoned the cloud-devouring beast and lightning in the middle of the night. They stood guard on either side of her and a powerful aura emanated from their bodies. Those filthy things did not dare to approach her at all. Furthermore, she was wearing the gourd that her sister, Wanyan Qianhua, had given her. The night passed quietly. When dawn broke the next day, the bonfire in front of Fingzhou was extinguished, leaving only wisps of smoke rising in spirals without a single spark. Chapter 3261. She raised an eyebrow. She did not think that it would be like this. However, seeing that there was nothing out of the ordinary during the day, she did not think that things would change once the sun went down. Sitting on the feather, she flew past without stopping for long. She followed the mountain path, winding and winding as if there was no end to it. On the other side, in Xifang City, as the sky gradually darkened, the people in the streets began to return home. The shops were all closed. In the darkness of the night, 12 cultivators covered in black robes arrived in front of the Feng Manor's main gate. Looking at the manor before them, they looked at each other. It's here. That's right. The information I received was that Whirlwind Blade Mei Wuing, who had disappeared for a long time, is in the Feng Manor as a housekeeper. There is also a child in the Feng Manor that rarely shows his face. If nothing unexpected happens, he should be the one we are looking for. Apparently, the master of the Feng Manor is a woman called Fingzhou. She also has another identity, the Ghost Doctor. She came from the lower realm, which is similar to what we investigated. Also, there is a male master called Xianyuan Mose. He rarely appears. Hearing this, the black-clothed person among the 12 narrowed his eyes and revealed a cold smile. Who would have thought that the child would still be alive, and in the hands of the Ghost Doctor Fingzhou? If we can capture that child, the following matters will be much easier. According to our people's inquiries, the Ghost Doctor should not be in the manor. Right now is the best time for us to make a move. In truth, they had also heard that the Ghost Doctor Fingzhou's power in the lower realm was not normal, especially in this world where she was the master of 2 of the sex elders. If they met force with force, the losses would be disastrous. However, now that she was not in the manor, it would be even more convenient for them to make a move. That Whirlwind Blade Mei Wuing is in the manor. He will definitely hinder us. You 4 will be responsible for drawing him away. Everyone else, come with me. There is no need to fight. As long as we capture that little demon, we will leave. The person in the middle spoke in a gloomy voice. His cold gaze fell on the manor in front of them. Yes. Everyone responded. Then, 4 of them stepped forward while the others hid in the darkness. Elder Mei, who was keeping watch at night in the Feng Manor, suddenly opened his eyes. His heart faintly felt a sense of unease. He looked at the sky, then released his divine sense to scan the manor. With this sweep of his divine sense, his heart suddenly trembled, and he quickly stood up. Who are you? He shouted in a deep voice. His voice, which contained spiritual qi, spread to every corner of the Feng Manor. It could be considered a reminder to Lang Hua and the others in the manor. It was all because, with a sweep of his divine sense, he could tell that the cultivation levels of the four people were extremely high. Almost at the same time old Mei spoke, Lang Hua and the others, who had been sleeping soundly, woke up immediately. Lang Hua walked toward his sister's courtyard. Under normal circumstances, even if someone barged in, old Mei would quietly take care of them. He had never warned them like he did tonight. Clearly, the person who had come was very strong and was not someone a normal person could deal with. The Yama Lord was in seclusion in the manor. No one else was there. Only the few of them were guarding the manor. During this period of time, nothing major had happened. Now that something had suddenly happened, he immediately became vigilant. Chapter 3262. Upon hearing this, Ling Shuang's heart sank. Okay. I'll take the little master and hide in the secret room right away. The secret room was an escape route and also a place to hide. After hearing Lang Hua's words, she immediately thought of that place. Her master was not here and the Yama Lord was in seclusion. That was the safest place. Lang Hua immediately escorted her and the child to his master's courtyard. After sending her and the child into the secret room, he said, "Sister, no matter what happens, you can't come out." "What about you? Are you not going in?" Ling Shuang looked at him worriedly. "Elder Mei is dealing with it alone. I'll go to the front to help. Besides, the Yama Lord is still in seclusion and the Fire Phoenix is still guarding the back of the mountain. Don't worry about me." After saying this, he quickly turned and left after pushing her in. Ling Shuang hugged the child in her arms tightly. She lowered her head and looked at the child. In the end, she clenched her teeth and retreated inside. However, she held her breath and kept an eye on the situation outside. Qin Axayan, who had just arrived, ran into Lang Hua and said, "I heard someone barging in. Go to the back of the mountain. The enemy should be very strong. You're definitely not their match. Hurry up and go to the back of the mountain." Lang Hua said and then went forward. When Qin Axayan saw this, she wanted to ask where Lang Shuang and the child went. However, she didn't have the chance. Judging from his appearance, they should be safe for now. However, she felt that it was inappropriate for her to go to the back of the mountain like this. Although she wasn't strong, she had been practicing the zither music score that her master gave her. She had some understanding of it. Perhaps she could help a little. Immediately, she took a deep breath and jumped to the highest point in the mansion. In front of them, Elder Mei looked at the four people surrounding him in four different directions. A dark light flashed through his eyes. However, his expression didn't change as he asked, "Who are you?" "Hee, do you think that just because you shaved your head and hid here, no one would recognize you as Whirlwind Blade Mei Wuying?" One of them laughed in a low voice. His narrowed eyes landed on old Mei, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. Hearing these words, old Mei's heart sank. Next, a powerful pressure and killing intent burst out of his body. "What do you want? That little demon should be in the foam manor, right?" He stared at old Mei and chuckled softly. "I truly did not expect that after searching for so long, that little devil has actually returned to the upper bound. This is truly good news. The person you're looking for is not here," Meija said in a calm voice. He turned his hand and a pitch-black thick sword appeared in his hand. The sword didn't look sharp, but when he brushed it with his spiritual power, the pitch-black thick sword seemed to have been sharpened. The edge of the sword flashed with a sharp cold light, and the sword aura was refracted. It was very sharp and frightening. "Is that so?" That person clearly didn't believe him. He only snorted coldly. In the next moment, he flew forward. The swords in the hands of the four people were slanting. They drew a sharp sword aura on the ground. When the sword aura rubbed against the ground, sparks flew. It was very conspicuous in the night. "If we kill you, Who will be able to protect that little demon? Shio. Clang. Shio. Chapter 3263. Clang. The 4 swords landed on Old May's thick black saber at the same time, emitting a crisp clanging sound. Powerful energy swords shot out from the blades of the swords, heading toward Old May. However, they were blocked by the energy of the black saber that Old May had used as a shield. The 4 black-robed cultivators were shocked when they saw that Old May had blocked their attacks all by himself. They seemed to have thought of something and were about to say something. However, they saw Old May withdraw his black saber in an instant. His figure flashed like a ghost and appeared behind them. The sharp energy swords slashed at their backs, and the 4 of them felt a sense of impending doom. Whoosh! Whirlwind blade! Mei Feng shouted. The thick black saber slashed out a whirlwind of energy swords at a speed too fast to be heard. The whirlwind blade slashed toward the 4 of them. The sound of their black robes being torn apart could be heard. In the next moment, the 4 of them cried out in alarm and groaned in pain. Hiss! Ah! Damn it! Although the 4 of them dodged as fast as they could, their backs were still slashed to varying degrees. This slash tore through their black robes and flesh, leaving behind deep marks. Along with the blood gushing out, the smell of blood also spread in the air. A powerful pressure enveloped them at this moment, causing the blood in their bodies to surge violently. Their expressions changed as they cried out in shock, You have already advanced to become a mid-god expert. This realization made them suck in a breath of cold air. They looked at the old man in front of them who was emitting the pressure of a mid-god expert in disbelief. As far as they knew, he was originally a low god expert. How could it be so easy to advance from low god to mid-god? However, he had actually advanced without a sound. When did this happen? How could there be no news of a low god expert advancing to the next level? Mei Feng narrowed his eyes. The black saber in his hand spun, emitting a cold murderous aura in the night. He did not speak. Instead, he took advantage of the situation to pursue and attack with his saber. His saber technique and movement technique began to change along with the powerful energy flowing from his body. If he was still holding back before, then at this moment, there was only one thought in his mind: kill them. It was with this thought in mind that he struck out to kill them. His speed was as fast as lightning. One of them couldn't dodge in time and was beheaded by his saber. The other 3 were shocked when they saw this and immediately cried out, Someone, come quickly. Originally, they were planning to lure him out of the Feng Manor. Who would have thought that Mei Wuying's strength would advance to the next level? With just the few of them, how could they be his opponent? The few people who were waiting in the shadows thought that Mei Wuying would not be able to fight against the 4 of them no matter how powerful he was. Thus, they waited with ease. However, as time passed, they did not see Mei Wuying being lured out of the mansion. They could not help but feel a little surprised. At this moment, they heard a cry of surprise from inside. Let's go. Numerous figures appeared in a flash and headed towards the Feng Manor. When they entered, they saw 2 corpses on the ground. One had his head chopped off, and the other had his waist cut in half. The other 2 were injured, and their faces were filled with terror as they fled in all directions. When they saw these people in the past, it was as if they had seen their saviors, and they rushed over. Chapter 3264. The bloody scene unfolded right before their eyes, causing the pupils of those who had just entered to shrink. They looked at the bald old man who was wielding the black saber like a god of death in shock. Whirlwind Saber Mei Wuying. He had actually become a mid-god expert. Motherfucker. Why didn't the person who had asked around say that he was already a mid-god expert? They were all immortal emperors and were already considered top-notch experts. Initially, they had thought that even if Old May was only a low deity, they would still be able to break through his defenses and take the kid away. Alas, the biggest flaw in their plan was that nobody had told them that Old May was already a mid-deity expert. Swish! Facing the sharp energy of the saber, their hearts skipped a beat. They quickly dodged and calmed themselves down. Two of you, go find the little brat. We'll hold him back. If he was a low god expert, these immortal emperors could still go all out. However, he was a mid-god expert. There was a difference of 2 levels between them and a mid-god expert. They admitted that they couldn't defeat him. The only thing they could do was hold him back so that he wouldn't have the time to do anything else. Hearing their words, Elder May became anxious. He waved the saber in his hand even faster. However, at this moment, he saw Leng Hua walking out and facing the 2 black-robed men. Leng Hua, leave quickly. You're no match for them. Elder May shouted, worried that something bad would happen to him. Not long after Leng Hua's figure appeared, Hui Lang and Ing Yi also rushed out from behind. The 3 of them joined forces to face the 2 black-robed men. They immediately started fighting. However, the 2 black-robed men were much stronger than them. After exchanging a few moves, they were suppressed by the pressure of the 2 black-robed men. The 3 of them were sent flying. They crashed heavily into the mansion's wall and fell to the ground. Pooh! The 3 of them coughed out blood. They clutched their chests and tried to stand up. However, they found that they couldn't stand at all. The pressure of the immortal emperors directly caused the blood in their bodies to churn. They coughed out another mouthful of blood, worsening their injuries. A few brats dare to fight with us. You guys overestimate yourselves. The black-robed cultivator harumphed coldly and swept his gaze across the 3 people on the ground with disdain. With their strength, killing the 3 people in front of them was as easy as crushing an ant. Just as they gathered a stream of air in their palms and approached step by step, preparing to deal a fatal blow to the 3 people, a strange sound of a zither rang out in the air. The voice carried spirit force as it spread through the air. The voice was focused on the 2 black-robed cultivators. The voice was extremely unpleasant to hear, and it was impossible to tell what tone it came from. However, the 2 black-robed cultivators felt their eardrums hurt. It was as if the voice was like a poisonous snake that drilled into their minds, causing their heads to ache. Damn it! Who's playing the zither? The pain in their eardrums made their hearts go wild. The sound of the zither reverberated in their minds, causing them to involuntarily form illusions. They saw the other party as an enemy and suddenly attacked the other party. I'll kill you! With a cold shout, the 2 black-robed cultivators also attacked the other party. Every move was swift and deadly. The 3 people on the ground couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. It was Qin Axayan who was playing the zither. She was a woman who hadn't been by their master's side for long, yet she was able to use Qin Axayan to disturb the minds of 2 immortal emperors and create illusions for them. It was truly unbelievable. Chapter 3265. Her strength to begin with was limited. She forced herself to play this song because she saw that the lives of Leng Hua and the others were in danger. Hence, she decided to take the risk. However, the hearts of immortal emperors were extremely tough, it wasn't easy to disturb them. She could only do so much, she wouldn't be able to persist for long. The 2 men were distracted by the zither music because they were careless. When they were injured and felt the pain, they suddenly woke up. At this moment, Qin Axayan spat out a mouthful of blood due to the backlash from the zither music. The zither string in her hand broke, and her body, which was sitting cross-legged, fell to the side. Over there. Damn it. Perhaps it was because they thought that their minds were easily disturbed by the sound of the zither, the 2 of them flew into a rage out of humiliation. One of them raised his chi and attacked with his palm. A wind blade flew towards the heart of the zither. Be careful. Qin Axayan wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. She had just sat up when she saw the attack coming. A strong pressure enveloped her, making it impossible for her to dodge. She could only take the attack head-on. Bang! Ah! A loud sound rang out, followed by a blood-curdling scream. Below, Ling Hua, Grey Wolf, Ying Yi, and the other two only saw her being sent flying, crashing down from a high place. Qin Xian. The three of them gritted their teeth and endured the intense pain in their bodies as they stood up. After they consumed a pill, they once again wielded their swords and attacked the two people. Thus, they did not know that the zither heart that had fallen from a high place was caught by the fire phoenix that had come from the back of the mountain. The fire phoenix put Qin Xian on the ground and spat out a pill from its mouth to feed her. Then, it flapped its wings and flew forward. When it arrived, it saw that Elder Mei was surrounded by several black-robed cultivators, and Lang Hua, Hui Lang, and Ying Yi were covered in wounds. The swords in the hands of the two black-robed cultivators pierced through the shoulders of Lang Hua and Grey Wolf. As the swords were pulled out, a column of blood spurted out. Yes! The two men fell to the ground with pale faces. Their wounds were overflowing with blood, and their mouths were also spitting out blood. One of the men in black stepped on Grey Wolf's face and raised his sword to rush towards Grey Wolf's chest. But at this time, Ying Yi rushed forward and knocked the man away. Because of this, Ying Yi was hit in the abdomen. Seeing how badly injured they were, Fire Phoenix's eyes were filled with rage. How dare you touch them? I'll kill all of you. The oppressive aura of the ancient divine beast struck out, causing the ground to shake violently. The powerful aura descended from the sky, pressing everyone who was standing to the ground with a bang. It was as if there was a huge magnet on the ground that instantly sucked them in, causing them to be stuck to the ground and unable to stand up. Bang bang! Sounds of bodies falling to the ground rang out, startling the black-robed cultivator. From the corner of his eye, he saw the ancient divine beast Fire Phoenix return to its original form with flames surging around its body as it charged towards them. Ancient mythological beast Fire Phoenix. Wasn't it supposed to be by Fingzhou's side? Why is it here? The black-robed cultivators widened their eyes in shock. Damn it! Wasn't Ghost Dr. Fingzhou supposed to be absent? Why was her contracted beast here? However, in the next moment, the ancient mythological beast flapped its wings and opened its mouth, shooting out numerous flames that rapidly burned towards them. Ah! Chapter 3266. When the people fighting with Elder Mei saw that the situation had taken a turn for the worse, they no longer cared about anything else and quickly shouted, "Retreat!" They did not stop and retreated. With a flip of their robes, they seemed to have used a teleportation treasure and instantly disappeared into the night. Seeing them escape, Elder Mei's heart sank. He arrived beside Lang Hua and the others and helped them up, asking, "Where's the young master?" "He's fine. My big sister is guarding him," said Lang Hua as he coughed up another mouthful of blood. As for the two black-robed men, they were burned to ashes by the flames. Before they died, their primordial spirits wanted to escape, but they were burned by the Fire Phoenix's flames. "Qin Xian, quickly take a look at Qin Xian," said Lang Hua as he had Elder Mei look at Qin Xian, who had fallen to the ground. Seeing this, Elder Mei quickly retreated and sent Qin back to the courtyard. Then, he arranged for the few of them to return. At this moment, Ling Shuang, who was in the secret chamber, was about to come out. She wanted to go back and see what was going on. However, right at this moment, she heard a wild laughter coming from the sky. Ha 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 ha. Old Mei, who was in the midst of settling Lang Hua and the others down, heard the voice and his heart sank. He ordered, "Don't come out." The moment he finished speaking, he rushed out and soared into the air. At the same time, the voice that appeared in the sky above the Foam Manor was so powerful that it caused the hearts of all the people in Four Corners City to tremble and wake up from their dreams. They came out of their rooms and looked in shock at the whirlpool that had appeared in the pitch-black sky. They looked at the face of a person wearing a mask in the middle of the whirlpool and could not help but pale as they cried out. Who is this person? Who has he come for? Such a powerful person was actually able to tear through the void and appear in the sky. His voice was so powerful that it caused the ground to tremble. Even the people from the 4 great sects would not be a match for such strength. In this 4-corner city, who had the ability to actually offend such a powerful figure? Inexplicably, a figure flashed through their minds and they almost blurted out a name. Fengzhou. Other than Fengzhou, who else in 4-corner city would have the guts to make an enemy out of such an expert? Just as she was thinking this, she saw a hand reach out from the sky. That hand was filled with a powerful aura, and it suddenly shot towards the Feng Manor. With a whoosh, that powerful aura flew through the air and struck the ground below. Bang! A deafening sound rang out. Even the people in the city could feel the power of the impact. They didn't even dare to stand on the roofs to watch, because that would expose them to the person in the vortex in the sky. In the sky above the Feng Manor, Elder May avoided the attack from above. He looked down at the place where the manor had been destroyed and saw a deep crater. He immediately raised his head and flew into the sky. When he got close, he gathered all the spiritual energy in his body and gathered it on the thick black blade in his hand. The black blade suddenly became many times larger. The sharp blade aura gave off a frightening aura. Following that, he fiercely slashed upwards. A cold blade aura suddenly shot out and headed towards the vortex in the sky. Blade Shadow. Chapter 3267. However, this attack of his was slapped down by a huge palm imprint from above. Just like that, the astral saber energy that had soared into the sky transformed into an air current and dissipated in the air. As for the palm imprint that was slapping down, it did not disappear. Instead, after slapping away the astral saber energy, it slapped down toward Old May, smacking him down from the sky. Bang! A loud sound rang out as the palm landed on Elder May's body. Immediately after, Elder May's entire body fell to the ground. When his body hit the ground, he created a hole in the front yard of the Feng Manor. His entire body lay in the hole, unable to move. His eyes stared at the whirlpool in the sky. Blood flowed out of his mouth, and it seemed that the blood could not be stopped. It continued to flow out, causing the Fire Phoenix to be shocked. Elder May. The Fire Phoenix shouted and flew forward to give him a pill so that he could protect his heart meridian. But who would have thought that there would be another palm print with overwhelming killing intent coming towards it? The Fire Phoenix immediately spread its wings and released a powerful ancient pressure to meet the palm print that was coming down on it. The two forces did not give way to each other. The palm above already had the upper hand, and seeing that the first palm had been blocked by the Fire Phoenix, another palm came at it. It was as if it wanted to take down the Fire Phoenix, not giving it any chance to breathe. The Fire Phoenix raised its head and let out a phoenix cry. It flapped its wings and the flames on its body shot into the sky with a whoosh. Following the flames on its body, another flame was spat out from its mouth and shot into the sky. The flames followed the flow of air and burned the dark clouds in the night sky red. The entire sky was filled with burning clouds and a fierce wind blew. It was as if the masked person in the whirlpool was still there. It was as if the flames were nothing to him. Ancient Divine Beast Fire Phoenix. Today, this Lord will take care of you. That gloomy and sharp voice came out, and a huge black claw that seemed to be solid suddenly stretched out from the whirlpool. It was not the hand of a human, but the huge claw of a contracted beast. The entire claw was huge and pitch black, and the sharp claws were suffused with a cold light in the flames. The huge claw came down from above and grabbed at the Fire Phoenix. It was as if it did not fear the ancient pressure. Almost at the same time that the huge black claw came down, the Fire Phoenix's eyes narrowed. The aura of an ancient divine beast. It immediately flapped its wings and flew away, avoiding the claw. At the same time, it raised its sharp claws and attacked the claw with fierce air currents mixed with flames. But unexpectedly, its attack had no effect on the huge black claw. It was as if its attack had directly passed through the huge black claw. Ha 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 ha. Do you think you can hurt me? Today, this lord will break your wings and make you submit to this lord. The savage voice was filled with a powerful pressure. In the whirlpool, the masked face poked out a little. It even reached out its hand to grab at the black claw, blocking it on the left and right. Boom! Bang! Chapter 32:68. The fire phoenix was stunned and looked towards the back of the mountain. At this moment, it was both pleasantly surprised and worried. It was pleasantly surprised that the Yama Lord had finally advanced after being in seclusion for a long time. But it was worrying that he would run into trouble during this period of time. If something went wrong, he might not even be able to advance and be injured. Sure enough, when the figure in the sky saw the bolt of lightning descend, he stopped his attack. His gaze fell on the back mountain of the Foam Manor. Suddenly, he flipped his hand and sent a palm strike towards the back of the mountain. When the fire phoenix saw this, a fierce killing intent flashed across its phoenix eyes. It folded its wings, and the pressure from its entire body shot out like a sharp arrow towards the whirlpool above. Whoosh! The fire phoenix flew through the air and entered the whirlpool, attacking the figure in the whirlpool. However, before it could hit its target, its neck was grabbed by a pair of giant black claws. It was the claws of an ancient beast. It struggled with all its might in the air, but for some reason, its flames could not burn the huge black claw, nor could it hurt that person. Boom! The second bolt of lightning struck. Hearing the sound, Ling Hua, Hui Lang, and Ying Yi, who were lying in the courtyard due to their injuries, were extremely excited. They knew that the Yama Lord had advanced. Only one more bolt of lightning. Only one more bolt of lightning and he would be able to break through. Above the whirlpool, the hand flipped and sent a palm strike towards the back of the mountain. The person in the sky looked down and scanned the area with his divine sense. When he sensed the aura of a living person in the back of the mountain, he prepared to send another strike and kill that person in the back of the mountain. But unexpectedly, just as he sent out a palm strike, the last bolt of lightning in the sky also struck down. Almost at the same time, there was a loud boom. Bang! After that sound, it was as if everything had calmed down. There was finally no more aura in the back of the mountain. Thus, the person in the whirlpool above looked at the fire phoenix with satisfaction. Just as he was about to grab the little demon hiding in the Foam Manor, he suddenly saw a green figure flash by like lightning. With a speed that was too fast for him to cover his ears, he attacked the ancient beast. Roar! A dragon's roar shook the heavens and earth. The dragon's roar sounded like it came from ancient times. It was powerful and full of energy. When the dragon's roar came out, it was as if the entire world shook. At this moment, the sky was filled with flames due to the continuous burning clouds. Due to Xianyuan Mo's advancement, the dark night sky was as bright as the day. The huge azure dragon soared into the air, and its tail entered the whirlpool and swayed, disrupting the aura surging in the whirlpool. The dragon opened its mouth and bit the huge black claw, and with a sharp tear, the dragon claw tore off the huge black claw. Roar! A mournful scream sounded in the sky. The fire phoenix was finally able to escape with the help of the azure dragon. It flapped its wings and flew to the side. It looked in shock at the azure dragon's tail that stirred the clouds in the sky. At this moment, it was shocked to see the Yama Lord Xianyuan Mo's in a black robe in the sky. He held the ancient divine sword Xianyuan's sword in his hand and fiercely slashed towards the sky. One sword to split heaven and earth. Chapter 32:69. The moment Xianyuan Mo swung his sword, the azure dragon swung his tail and leaped into the air, swiftly dodging the attack. It was unknown what method Xianyuan Mose had used, but when the sword landed on the whirlpool, it sliced through the clouds as well. It was as if the clouds in the sky had been split apart at that moment, and the illusory figure hidden in the whirlpool behind the clouds had finally been hit. A blood-curdling scream was heard, and the whirlpool disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only that person's unwilling voice in the air. This noble one will slowly settle this score with you. Following the disappearance of the whirlpool, the clouds in the sky dispersed as well. The surroundings seemed to have returned to normal, and not a single sound could be heard. The fire phoenix looked at the sky, then looked at the azure dragon and Xianyuan Mose, who was standing against the wind, and asked, I tried to attack them just now, but why couldn't I attack that person and that beast? It was very puzzled about this point. If it could attack them, perhaps it wouldn't have been caught by that beast. The azure dragon glanced at it and said in a deep voice, That's not a physical body, so your flame attack naturally can't hurt them. It looked at its master and saw him looking at the sky. It didn't know what he was thinking, so it immediately swung its tail and headed towards him. Seeing this, the fire phoenix went downwards. When it saw the two guardian beasts, who were hiding somewhere, pulling the heavily injured Elder May out of the pit, it quickly went forward and spat out a pill from its mouth for Elder May to consume. Xianyuan Mose descended from the sky and arrived in front of Elder May. His handsome and resolute face was tense as he looked at Elder May with a pair of deep and cold eyes. You'd better tell us about Er's background, or else you won't be so lucky next time. Elder May smiled bitterly and opened his mouth, but in the end, he couldn't take it anymore and fainted. That night, when the various aristocratic families in the city saw that the sky had returned to normal, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid that Four Corners City would be razed to the ground because of this, but fortunately, it finally stopped. What they did not think was that with such a large commotion in the Feng Manor, Fengjiu was nowhere to be seen. Instead, Xianyuan Mose and the ancient divine beast, Azure Dragon, appeared. Just how deep were the foundations of the Feng Manor? Two of the four great ancient mythological beasts were actually there. It was truly inconceivable. In Xifang City, after the Shao family's head saw that the matter had been settled, he brought people and hurried to the Feng Manor. They did not dare approach the battle earlier because they were not a match for them. Naturally, they could not do something as suicidal. They were unable to help during the battle, but they could help take care of the Feng Manor's matters after the battle. At the very least, they would not be unable to say anything when their ancestor asked. When they arrived at the Feng Manor, sure enough, what they saw was a complete mess. It seemed that aside from Xianyuan Mose, the two ancient divine beasts and the two guardian beasts, everyone else in the Feng Manor was lying on the ground. In the secret room, Ling Shuang, who had already calmed down after hearing the commotion outside, steadied his mind. Only then did he carry the child whose acupuncture point had been hit and walk out. Upon walking out, he ran into Xianyuan Mose, who was standing in the middle of the yard. Yalma Lord. Chapter 3270. Xianyuan Mose glanced at her, then shifted his gaze to the sleeping child in her arms. Looking at the sleeping he said, Give to me. Go check on them and help them treat their wounds. Yes, Ling Shuang replied, then carried the child to him and quickly went to where the others were. When she came to the front, she saw the Shao family members helping to clean up the corpses. She walked forward and said to the head of the Shao family, there's no rush to clean this up. Let's clean up the corpses and go back first. Hearing this, the head of the Shao family nodded, all right then. Miss Ling Shuang, are the others seriously injured? The ghost doctor isn't here. Do you need me to get 2 doctors to come over and help? If there's a need, I'll look for you, Ling Shuang said, then didn't say anything else and went to her brother's courtyard. Lang Hua was currently lying in his room. Although he had already taken the pill, his injuries were too many. He couldn't even get up for a while, so he could only lie on the bed and worry helplessly. He didn't know how the others were doing. The manor must be in a mess right now, but he was lying here, unable to do anything. Brother. Ling Shuang quickly walked in. When she saw her brother lying on the bed covered in wounds, her heart tightened. Sister. Leng Hua called out weakly, "Where's the little master? Where are the others? Are they all okay?" "Don't worry, the little master is fine. Hui Lang and the others have also taken the pill, but they're all seriously injured," Ling Shuang said as she quickly helped him clean up his wounds. "I'll help you bandage your wounds first." She took out the medicine and bandaged all the wounds on his body. After that, she fed him a pill, then said, "You rest first. I still have to help the others bandage their wounds." "Okay." Leng Hua responded. Due to his severe injuries, he gradually closed his eyes and fell asleep. Seeing this, Ling Shuang covered him with a blanket and quickly went to the others. She bandaged their wounds and fed them medicine. After treating their wounds, she went to the main courtyard. "Yama Lord, their wounds have been bandaged and they have consumed their nadins. There should be no danger to their lives. However, their injuries are not light. I'm afraid they won't be able to get out of bed for the next few days." She looked at Xianyuan Mose as she spoke, only to see him holding Hao and looking at her. She didn't know what he was thinking, but after waiting for a long time, she didn't hear him speak. After a long while, she heard him ask, "Where's Elder Mei?" "Elder Mei is still unconscious. He hasn't woken up yet," Ling Shuang said. "Keep an eye on him. Let me know when he wakes up," he instructed before carrying the child into the room. Seeing him enter the room with the child in his arms, Ling Shuang stood for a while and then went out. Because the battle had just ended, the mansion was in a mess. The Shao family members had also left. Other than the Azure Dragon and Fire Phoenix, there were only the two guard beasts squatting at the side with their heads shrunk. Seeing the mansion destroyed like this, and the people in the mansion, except for her, the Yama Lord, and the little master, were all seriously injured and lying in bed. She didn't know when her master and the others would come. For a moment, she couldn't help but worry. She was worried that those people would come again. If they came again, it would probably be another fierce battle, and they wouldn't be able to endure another fierce battle. Chapter 3271. She flipped over and sat up. She could still feel her heart pounding furiously. This feeling was extremely bad. She got up and walked around the room. Arriving at the window, she stood there and looked at the night sky outside. She frowned and took out her communication jade tablet. Right now, the only thing that could make her worry was probably the Feng Manor situation in Sifang City. She was feeling uneasy tonight. She did not know what had happened. Thus, she used the communication jade tablet to ask Leng Hua. She sat by the window for the entire night. After waiting for the entire night, there was no response from the communication jade tablet in her hand. This caused her heart to become even heavier. Normally, even if it was at night, Leng Hua would reply to her. Now, there was no response at all. She feared that something had really happened. Thus, she used the communication jade tablet to ask Leng Hua again. As she washed up and changed her clothes, she saw that the sky was getting brighter. She saw the communication jade tablet on the table emit a light. She waved her hand and spiritual energy spread out. The communication jade tablet's voice also sounded in the room. "Master, the manor was attacked last night. The attacker was very powerful and could tear through space to appear in the sky. They came for the young master. Leng Hua and the others were all heavily injured. Elder Mei is still unconscious. Fortunately, the young master is fine. The Yama Lord also just happened to break through and come out of seclusion." A few simple sentences explained the situation. However, Fengjiu was still not at ease when she heard this. Even Elder Mei was unconscious and heavily injured. From this, it could be seen that the attacker was very powerful. It seemed that she had to hurry and return as soon as possible. Putting away the jade tablet, she walked out. She was only missing 3 people. She was only 3 people away from 100 people. After returning, she had to think of a way to escape from Dan Wang Valley. After she left, she walked into the city. She walked around the city and asked if there were any seriously ill people in the city. However, the morning passed, and there was still no news. Seeing that the sun was scorching hot above her head, she went to a street stall and sat down. She ordered something to eat. "Auntie, give me a bowl of tofu pudding." A woman in her 30s led a 7 or 8-year-old girl to the stall. After ordering a bowl of tofu pudding, they sat down at the table. Fengjiu casually glanced at him, but his gaze moved slightly. Her gaze swept past the woman and landed on the little girl. She saw that the little girl was lifeless and her eyes were empty. When she walked, the tips of her feet did not touch the ground. "Eldest daughter, mother bought you your favorite tofu pudding. Quickly try it." The woman's expression was haggard, but she still called out to her daughter in a gentle voice. She placed the bowl of tofu pudding in front of her. Seeing her daughter sitting there in a daze, as if she didn't hear her, she couldn't help but shed tears. "Mother, I'll feed you. Come, open your mouth." The woman scooped a spoonful and brought it to the little girl's mouth. The little girl opened her mouth mechanically and ate. When Fengjiu saw this, a glint flashed past her eyes. She drank her tea and said indifferently, "This is an illness. It has to be treated." When the woman heard this, she couldn't help but be startled. She looked at Fengjiu and saw that she was wearing a dazzling red dress. She had a beautiful face and an outstanding temperament. However, she didn't dare to approach her. "If you don't treat her, she won't be able to wake up in a few days," Fengjiu said. Her gaze shifted and landed on the little girl. Chapter 3272. However, at this moment, the girl who was originally sitting suddenly stood up and ran off. The girl's mother was so frightened that she cried out in alarm and wanted to chase after her. "Wait for me here. I'll help you bring her back." Fengjiu's voice fell and he also rushed out. The people at the stall were stunned, especially the old couple in the stall. They were even more stunned. That girl in red had ordered many things and had not paid yet. The woman was extremely anxious. She wanted to go look for her, but she was afraid that she would not be able to find her, so she could only wait here. Fengjiu followed behind the girl unhurriedly. He watched her cross the street and enter the alley, so he also followed her into the alley. Once he entered the alley, he saw the girl looking around aimlessly. Not running anymore. Fengjiu curled the corners of his lips and his gaze fell on the girl. The girl's empty eyes suddenly changed. She stared at Fengjiu like a leopard. "Don't meddle in other people's business." That voice was mixed with the girl's tender voice, but it also had a hint of an old voice. "I didn't want to meddle in other people's business, but unfortunately, I met you." She looked at the girl and said, "Are you going to leave on your own? Or do you want me to take you?" The girl's body was haunted by a Yin spirit. If she did not expel the Yin spirit, she would not be able to live. If the girl died, then her body would become a vessel for the Yin spirit. It was one thing if she did not meet her, but now that she met her, she naturally would not stand by and do nothing. Immediately, she flipped her palm and a flame surged. In the next moment, as her palm flipped, the flame flew out and attacked the girl. At the same time, a powerful pressure enveloped the girl from all directions. With no way to escape, the Yin spirit attached to the girl saw the flame attack and was shocked. It immediately left the girl's body and flew out. Just as it was about to escape, Fengjiu threw the small gourd at her waist into the air. "Take!" With a shout, she watched as the Yin spirit screamed and was sucked into the gourd. The gourd spun in the air and returned to her hand, turning back into a small gourd. She put the gourd's lid back in and shook the gourd. Then, she tied the string back to her waist and walked over to the girl on the ground. She channeled her spiritual power into her palm, and a surge of vitality flowed from her palm into the girl's body. Not long after, she took out her silver needles to dispel the cold Yin energy in the girl's body. When the girl returned to normal, she picked up the girl and walked towards the stall. The woman was anxiously pacing back and forth in front of the stall, looking around from time to time. When she saw the dazzling red figure walking over with the child in her arms, she couldn't help but be overjoyed and hurriedly ran forward. "Eldest girl!" The woman shouted and came to Fengjiu to take the child. She asked in a trembling voice, "Miss, what happened to my daughter?" She didn't know why her daughter suddenly ran away. Fengjiu smiled and said, "She's fine. Take her home to rest. She'll be as lively and cute as before when she wakes up tomorrow." Hearing this, the woman could not help but hesitate. "Then, what you said earlier?" "I just gave her acupuncture." "She's fine now," Fengjiu said. The girl slowly opened her eyes and called out timidly, "Mother." Chapter 3273. "Mother, I'm hungry." The girl blinked her eyes and said timidly. She looked at Fengjiu with a hint of curiosity in her clear and timid eyes. The woman's eyes reddened when she heard this. "Mother will take you home and make you something good to eat." She carried the child and bowed to Fengjiu. "Thank you, Mississippi." "Thank you." Feng Nine smiled and watched her leave with the child. Then, she walked to the stall, took out 2 gold coins, put them on the table, and left. A few days later, after she saved a few mercenaries on the mountain path, a whirlpool appeared out of thin air and sucked her in. "Hee, you're back." Dan Wang chuckled when he saw Fengjiu appear in front of him. He stroked his beard and smiled. "You've been gone for almost a month." "Master, something happened at home. I have to leave," Fengjiu said as soon as he saw him. "Leave? So soon? I haven't even started to teach you." Dan Wang frowned. However, he saw that Fengjiu did not seem to be joking. He stroked his beard and thought for a moment. "Do you really have to leave?" Fengjiu nodded. "I have to." Dan Wang nodded. "That's fine. I'll send you off tomorrow. I want to leave now." Fengjiu looked at him and said. Dan Wang looked at him in surprise. He said, "A few days ago, I received news from my family that the situation is very bad. I've already been delayed for a few days. I can't delay any longer." Hearing this, King of Pills frowned and said, "If that's the case, then go and call your men over." "Thank you, Master." Fengjiu cupped his fists and thanked him. He then quickly left. Du Fan and the others had been cultivating during this time and had only come out recently. Their strength had increased a lot during this time. Therefore, when they saw Fengjiu walking quickly towards them, they couldn't help but smile and walk up to him. "Master." Fengjiu glanced at them and saw the fluctuations in their auras. Their strength had all increased. He was a little surprised, but his expression was normal. He didn't show anything. He just ordered, "Pack your things and follow me." Hearing this, Du Fan and the others looked at each other and saw that her expression was serious. They quickly went back to pack their things and came out. When they came out, Du Fan couldn't help but ask, "Mistress, did something happen?" "Yes, something happened in the mansion. Leng Hua, Elder Mei, and the others were all seriously injured," Fengjiu said as he led them to the back of the mountain. "I've already spoken to Master, and he agreed to send us away." Hearing that even Elder Mei had been heavily injured, their expressions could not help but become serious. Elder Mei was so powerful, and he had the Fire Phoenix protecting the Foam Manor, yet he had still been injured. It was clear that the enemy was much stronger than before. How were they doing now? Because they were worried, they rushed the entire way. When they arrived at the back of the mountain, they saw Dan Wang standing there, waiting for them. "Greetings, Dan Wang." Du Fan and the others respectfully saluted. Although the training during this time was difficult, their strength had indeed increased. This could be said to be all thanks to Dan Wang. The Pill King nodded and glanced at them. Then, he waved his hand and said, "Go, stand on that array." Chapter 3274. Come with me. Dan Wang waved his hand, indicating for Fengzhou to follow him to the side. Seeing this, Fengzhou walked over. "Master." Dan Wang looked at her and sighed, "You're the person with the best medical skills and alchemy talent I've ever seen. I originally wanted you to take over Dan Wang Valley and pass on my lifelong skills to you, but I didn't expect you to leave." Hearing this, Fengzhou remained silent and didn't say anything. "I originally wanted to help you break through your current level of strength, but it's impossible now. However, Master still prepared some things for you." As he spoke, he took out a space ring from his space. "There are medical books, my alchemy records, some of my experiences, and some pills that you can't refine yet. Those pills are for you to use when you're in danger. When you go back, you must study the art of alchemy carefully when you have time. Don't disappoint Master's expectations." "Yes, I know. Don't worry, Master." She took the space ring and put it into her space. Looking at the old man in front of her, she felt a little upset. She hadn't done anything for him since she came here. On the contrary, she had been heavily nurtured by him. She really felt guilty. As for her, she was about to leave. She had accepted his gift, but she didn't know what to give him in return. Pills. His pills were of a higher level than hers, so he naturally didn't care about her pills. Spiritual herbs. What kind of precious spiritual herbs didn't this Dan Wang Valley have? No matter how she thought about it, she didn't know what he needed. She really felt guilty. "Master, if I want to come back in the future, how should I do it?" After hesitating for a while, she still asked this question. If there was a chance in the future, she wanted to come back to see him and bring him some good wine. Hearing this, Dan Wang smiled and said, "There's a formation diagram in the space ring I gave you. When the time comes, you can come here through that formation diagram. Moreover, I've also prepared a formation diagram for you. Once you're familiar with it, you can come and go as you please in this vast world." Upon hearing this, Fengzhou's eyes lit up, and he asked, "Is that formation diagram really that powerful? Is it possible to go to the lower realm?" "Of course, as long as you've mastered the formation diagram, you'll be able to send you anywhere you want, just like I did," Dan Wang said as he stroked his beard. He looked at her and said, "All right, I won't say anything else. You can read it when you get back. Master, I live in the Foam Manor in Xifang City. In the future, if you go to Xifang City, come to my home." She smiled from the bottom of her heart. At the same time, she gave him her communication jade token and took his communication jade token. Holding the jade tablet in his hand, Dan Wang nodded. "Master understands." Fengzhou bowed towards him once more before turning around and walking towards the formation, standing together with Du Fan and the others. Dan Wang went up and personally activated the formation to send them away. With a flash of light, a vortex appeared in the air and sucked them in. He couldn't help but look at it with reluctance. Only when the vortex disappeared did he look away. "I don't know if we'll have a chance to meet again after this." Dan Wang stood in the back mountain for a while. He arrived at the cauldron and patted it. Only then did he slowly leave with his hands behind his back, heading towards his cave. Chapter 3275. When they saw the place in front of them, they couldn't help but be happy. this is the forest outside Four Corners City. They didn't expect that the place they were teleported back to would be so close to Four Corners City. Let's go. Let's go back to the mansion and have a look, Fengjiu said, and then rushed towards Four Corners City. Fengjiu, dressed in red, took Du Fan and others back to the city. It could be said that as soon as they entered the city, all the big families in the city knew. The people in the city looked at them with strange eyes. Although they didn't see the battle that night, there were rumors in the city these days that the Feng family had offended a very powerful person. They were afraid that a disaster was coming. Fengjiu ignored the people in the city. Instead, she took Du Fan and others to the gate of the Feng mansion. Seeing that the gate was open and the people of the Xiao family were busy inside, Fengjiu took the lead and walked in. When the two beasts guarding the gate saw Fengjiu return, they couldn't help but stand up and kneel down. They didn't dare to come out that night. Instead, they hid. Therefore, these days, they were worried that their master would come back and settle accounts with them. Fengjiu just glanced at the two beasts and then looked away. She didn't expect that the mansion would be like this. Looking around, whether it was the walls or the ground, it was a mess. There were traces of a fierce battle. Her eyes darkened and she quickly walked inside. The ghost doctor is back, someone called out. The people of the Xiao family who were helping to clean up here saw Fengjiu and quickly bowed their heads to make way for her. Du Fan and others saw the scene in the mansion. They couldn't help but look at each other and quickly walked inside. In the main courtyard, Xianyuan Mose was drinking tea in the courtyard. Hao walked around him and chuckled from time to time. On the side, CK and Mu Axayan were also there. They stood beside Xianyuan Mose and continued to persuade him. Master, there are only a few of you in the mansion now. It's really not safe. If there are more enemies, how can you protect them all by yourself? Come with us to the mountain and live for a few days. At least in the sect, we can take care of you. Yes, Master. Come with us to the sect and live for a while. If Master Feng comes back, we will take her to the sect as soon as possible. The two tried to persuade him. They had been trying to persuade him for 2 days. When they arrived and saw the scene in the mansion, they were shocked. With their strength, there were still people who dared to come looking for trouble. They really didn't expect that in addition to Master Feng's Fire Phoenix, this master, who had never shown her face, actually also had an ancient mythological beast, Azure Dragon. This was something that no one had expected. Moreover, after not seeing her for a while, Master had actually advanced again. Say no more. Xianyuan Mose waved his hand and said, the people of the Xiao family are helping to take care of things in the mansion. You have been here for 2 days. You can go back. CK and Mu Axayan couldn't help looking at each other when they heard this. They also wanted to go back, but they were worried. Master Feng was not in the mansion now. If she came back and something happened in the mansion, what should they do? They were her disciples. Now that their master was in trouble, they couldn't stand by and do nothing. After thinking for a while, they said, since Master doesn't want to go back to the sect with us, we will stay here and guard. Chapter 3276. CK and Mu Axayan followed her gaze. When they saw their master, they couldn't help but be delighted. The two of them hurriedly bowed and called out, Master. Fengjiu nodded slightly in response and glanced at them. CK and Mu Axayan looked at each other, bowed, and quietly retreated. After they left, Xianyuan Mose reached out his hand to her. How have you been? Fengjiu also reached out and held his hand, allowing him to pull her to her side. Everything is fine. I rushed back as soon as I heard the news. How are the others in the residence? Are their injuries serious? Mother. When little Hao saw Fengjiu return, he happily threw himself at her legs and hugged her. Fengjiu's expression was gentle as she revealed a smile. She picked him up and placed him on her lap. Little How, have you been obedient and listened to Daddy? Yes, How has been good. He listens to Daddy. The little guy leaned into her arms and looked at her with a pair of beautiful eyes. Suddenly, he took out a bright red fruit from his clothes and handed it to Fingjo. Mother, eat this. Seeing this, Fingjo couldn't help but rub his little head. How, is so obedient. She bent down and took a bite of the fruit. She smiled and told him, it's very sweet and delicious. He smiled happily and said in a soft voice, Daddy gave it to me. As soon as he finished speaking, he looked at Xianyuan Mose, who was sitting next to him. How, be good. Go play with Lang Shuang first. Daddy and Mother have something to discuss. Xianyuan Mose said and motioned for Lang Shuang to carry the child out. Okay. The little one was very obedient. He got down from Fingzhou's arms and looked at Fingzhou before following Lang Shuang out. This time, it's because of How, However, Elder Mei is still unconscious. Xianyuan Mose looked at her and said, as for Lang Hua and the others, they have been recuperating for the past few days. Although their injuries are serious, they are gradually getting better. The two of them chatted in the courtyard for a while and learned some details from him. After a while, Fingzhou stood up and said, come with me to see them. Yes. He stood up and walked with him to Lang Hua's courtyard. In order to take care of them, Lang Shuang asked the Shao family to move them to Lang Hua's courtyard. Besides Elder Mei, Qin Axian was also seriously injured. According to Lang Hua and others, it was Qin Axian who forced herself to play the music that saved their lives. Xianyuan Mose said and walked slowly. He didn't expect that Qin Axian, who he brought back, would save Lang Hua and others at a critical moment. Hearing this, Fingzhou nodded and said, with her strength, she is not strong enough to fight with the masters of the immortal Emperor realm. However, she was able to play the music that disturbed their minds. It can be seen that the backlash was very great. It's good that she was able to keep her life. The two of them chatted as they came to Lang Hua's courtyard. As soon as they entered, they saw CK and Mu Axian were also there. Master. The two of them greeted and bowed before retreating to the side. Fengzhou glanced at them and said, wait for a while. I have something to tell you. Yes. The two of them answered and waited in the courtyard. Xianyuan Mose and Fengzhou entered Lang Hua's room. In the room, Lang Hua had already opened his eyes when he heard her voice. When he saw her come in, he smiled and struggled to sit up. Chapter 32:77. She came to the bedside to take his pulse and examine his body. She could feel that his internal organs were seriously injured. She placed one hand on his palm and released a trace of vitality to help him heal his internal injuries. Xianyuan Mose, who was watching from the side with his hands clasped behind his back, looked normal. However, Ling Hua, who was lying on the bed, was shocked beyond belief. This was because he could feel a trace of warmth from his master's palm entering his meridians, helping him heal his internal injuries. His internal injuries, which were painful even when he breathed, gradually recovered under the nourishment of this aura. Fengzhou helped him heal for about half an incense stick's worth of time before withdrawing her hand. She looked at Lang Hua and said, sit up and try to circulate your qi. Yes. Lang Hua replied. He propped himself up and sat up. He actually felt that his body had recovered by about 70%. He couldn't help but look at his master in front of him, his eyes filled with shock. Master, I feel that the internal injuries in my body seem to have recovered by about 70%. Even if he didn't use his qi, he knew that at least 70% had recovered. He, who couldn't even sit up before, was now able to sit up as usual. Fengzhou smiled slightly and said, try your luck. Thus, he tried to circulate the spiritual energy in his body. Not long after, he smiled and looked at Fengzhou. Master, I can now confirm that the internal injuries in my body have recovered by 70%. It's just that my luck is not as good as before. Fengjiu nodded. There's no rush. Take your time. She stood up and said, now that you can get out of bed and walk around, don't keep lying on the bed. Get up and move your hands and feet more. The blood in your body will circulate faster, and it will be good for your body. Yes. He replied. Fengjiu turned and walked out with Xianyuanmos to another room in the courtyard. In this room, Hui Lang and Ying Yi were both here. However, one slept in the inner room, while the other slept in the outer room. Master, Ghost Doctor. When Ying saw the two of them, he called out to them. His voice was weak and powerless. Fengjiu stepped forward to check. His condition was similar to Lang Hua's, so he also used the Green Lotus's vitality to help him heal his internal injuries. As the time it took for an incense stick to burn passed, Shadow One's internal injuries gradually improved. He couldn't help but be somewhat astonished. Ghost Doctor, my injuries. How did they heal so quickly? His injuries were extremely serious. Even if he had consumed the inner core, he would not have recovered so quickly. However, just now, there seemed to have been an aura flowing into his body. It did not take long for his internal injuries to heal. Rest first. He can get out of bed and walk around tomorrow, Fengjiu said as he went into the inner room to treat Hui Lang. Seeing her treat them like this, sweat began to form on her forehead. Xianyuanmos walked over to her side and asked, can your body take it? Now that their lives are not in danger, they can slowly recuperate. It's fine. The spiritual aura that has been lost can be recovered after resting for a while, she said as she helped treat Hui Lang. Ghost Doctor, why do I feel like my injuries are at least 70% better? How did you do it? Hui Lang was not like Ying Yi. Although he was shocked, he did not ask. He was curious, so he asked. Xianyuanmos glanced at him indifferently. Once you recover, you talk a lot more. Chapter 3278. Get some rest. You can get out of bed and walk around tomorrow, Fengjiu instructed. He then walked out of the room and went to Elder May's room. After examining Elder May, Fengjiu frowned slightly. The person who injured him was very strong. His internal organs were damaged. If he hadn't taken the inner core to save his life, he probably wouldn't have survived. That person was stronger than me. Moreover, he had an ancient beast with him. Xianyuanmos said in a low voice. When he thought of the scene that night, his expression became serious. That person didn't appear in his true form. He was just an illusion. Fortunately, he didn't appear in his true form. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for us to defeat him. He had advanced from the peak of the Immortal Emperor realm to the lower God realm. However, he didn't expect that he was still too weak. Even Mei Jie, who was a mid-God realm expert, couldn't withstand a single attack from his opponent. With his current lower God realm strength, he would probably lose miserably if they fought head-on. When he thought of this, his deep eyes flickered. The hands behind his back slowly clenched into fists. This feeling of being in a passive state where the enemy was too strong and he was too weak was really not a good feeling. Fengjiu only gave Elder May a strand of green lotus life force. After all, he wasn't as trustworthy as Lang Hua and Hui Lang. She knew that he was here because of how. Naturally, she couldn't let him know about the green lotus life force in her body. After giving him some treatment, she took out a pill and fed it to him. Then, she turned around and left. She went to Qin Xian's room in the back. After the treatment, she went to the front yard. Looking at CK and Mu Xian, who were waiting in the yard, Fengjiu looked at them and said, I want information on all the experts on this continent who are at the mid-God realm and above. Help me gather it. Also, prepare the information of some experts from the hidden families, or some experts in seclusion, as well as some major events that have happened in the past 10 years. Upon hearing this, CK and Mu Axayan were slightly surprised. They glanced at Fengzhou and then at Xianyuan Mose. At this moment, Xianyuan Mose said, I told them about this yesterday. Yes, Master Xianyuan just told us yesterday. We have already sent a message to our sect's disciples and asked them to search for it. Hearing this, Fengzhou looked at them and said, It's better for you to handle this matter personally. I think that there are some things that your disciples won't be able to obtain information about. Since that's the case, we'll return to the sect later. Masters, don't worry, we'll definitely collect the information and send it over as soon as possible. The two of them didn't refuse. Indeed, there were some things that their disciples wouldn't be able to obtain and they would have to return personally. Now that Fengzhou had returned, they could return to the sect with peace of mind. However, they didn't know who their master's enemies were. Did they have any clues? Thinking of this, CK thought for a moment and asked, Masters, if I may be so bold as to ask, do you have any idea who our enemies are? Do you know where they are from? Although they were asked to search for information, he wondered who their enemies were. Why were they here? The two of them should at least know something, right? Fengzhou shook his head, we don't know where they are from. Chapter 3279. CK and Mu Axayan left first. Before they left, CK instructed the Shao clan's people to help out here and pay more attention to the situation here. The Shao clan's people did not dare to neglect the Shao clan's ancestors' orders, and they hurriedly complied. After they left, Fengzhou, accompanied by Xianyuan Mose, walked around the mansion and looked at the traces left behind by the battle that night. The huge pit on the ground had been flattened and filled with the help of the Shao family. The collapsed wall had been rebuilt and some flowers and plants in the garden had been replanted. Although everything was being restored, some traces of the battle could still be seen. Xianyuan Mose and Fengzhou stopped and looked at little Hao, who was playing in the garden. You said that Hao had an extraordinary background, but I didn't expect him to attract such a strong person. His identity is indeed extraordinary. Yes. I didn't expect him to be so extraordinary either. But I wonder what his identity is. What do you think? She looked at Xianyuan Mose and asked. Xianyuan Mose looked up at the sky and said, maybe he's the son of the ruler of this continent. To attract such a strong person, the little guy's identity was definitely not from an ordinary hidden family. Instead, it was very likely that he was from the bloodline of the ruler of this continent. Hearing this, Fengzhou was slightly startled, the ruler of this continent. Xianyuan Mose did not say much and only said, CK and Mu Axayan have already gone to investigate. I believe that we will know soon. Right now, it's just a wild guess. Fengzhou nodded, that's true. When their investigation arrives, we should know what kind of person we are facing. Or we can wait for Elder May to wake up and ask him to tell us everything. When will Elder May wake up? Xianyuan Mose asked. Fengzhou shook his head, it's hard to say. The injuries to his internal organs are one thing, but his head was also heavily injured when he landed. Although I used the vitality of the Green Lotus to heal him, it's not easy to treat the head problem. Daddy, Mommy. The little guy saw the two of them and shouted happily. He ran over with his short legs and opened his arms to throw himself at Fengzhou, as if he was not worried about falling. Fengzhou saw the little guy throwing himself at him and could not help but reveal a gentle smile. He squatted down and caught him in his arms. How, are you tired? Have you eaten anything? Mommy, How is not tired. He tilted his head and thought for a moment. Then, he said, Auntie Shuang said that she would eat later. Hearing this, Fengzhou patted his head. And said to Ling Shuang, Shuang, have the kitchen prepare some food to eat in this gardens, we'll eat here. We'll eat here. Also, get the kitchen to cook some ginseng porridge for Lang Hua and the others. Yes, Ling Shuang replied. Her heart skipped a beat. Shuang Shuangs. Shuang, to recover. Immediately, he bowed and retreated to the kitchen. Fengjiu held the child in one hand and Xianyuan Mo's in the other. They walked to the pavilion in the garden and sat down. She thought of her sister, Wanyan Qianhua, and told Xianyuan Mo's about it. I was thinking of finding time to visit them when I came back. I didn't expect to encounter this. Chapter 3280. All right. She smiled and said, even if I want to go and take a look now, I can't leave. Let her deal with it herself. We'll talk about it when things here are a little straightened out. The two chatted in the pavilion while playing with the child. Not long after, Ling Shuang brought food over and placed it on the table before leaving. Xianyuan Mo's watched Fengjiu coax the child to eat with a gentle expression. His eyes flashed, and no one knew what he was thinking. After Fengjiu fed the child some porridge, she looked at Xianyuan Mo's and saw him looking at her and how, in a daze. She smiled and asked, what are you thinking about? Xianyuan Mo shook his head. Nothing. What he was thinking about was something that could not be realized now. Looking at his expression, Fengjiu's heart skipped a beat. She smiled and said, are you thinking that if we have a child, will it be as cute? Xianyuan Mo's looked at her in surprise. His eyes overflowed with laughter. He did not expect her to guess what he was thinking. However, he was not only thinking about the child they would have in the future. He also wanted to give her a peaceful world. He hoped that when they got married in the future, his strength would be enough to hold up the sky for her and the child. He did not want their child to be like how, and experience so much hardship at a young age. Mose, let's get married when Lang Hua and the others recover. She looked at him with a smile and held his hand. We can have a small warm wedding here first. When we go back in the future, we can have a grand wedding. What do you think? Hearing this, Xianyuan Mo shook his head. No. How could he let her suffer? If they got married, he would definitely give her a grand wedding. A grand wedding that would make all the strong people in the world envious. Our marriage is not urgent. Moreover, the current situation is not a good time to get married. He smiled and held her hand. Trust me, in the future, I will give you a grand wedding that will be celebrated by the whole world. Fengjiu's heart was filled with sweetness when she saw him looking at her with his deep and gentle black eyes and making such a promise to her. She couldn't stop the smile on her face from blossoming, and the smile in her eyes was so joyful. Yes, I believe you. In this world, the person she trusted the most was him. 3 days later. CK and Mu Axan personally delivered the information. In the main courtyard, Xianyuan Mo's and Fengjiu flipped through the information they had brought. CK and Mu Axan looked at each other and said, Master, a mid-god is already very rare. This time, we mainly investigated the strong people above the mid-god level. Regardless of whether they are demons, heretics, or orthodox sects in hidden clans, we have all the information here. CK paused for a moment before continuing, we've also investigated it. The expert who appeared in the whirlpool that night and had an ancient fierce beast as a contract beast should be the sovereign Tong Tian mentioned in the information. Chapter 3281. What do you mean? Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and looked at him. It's the same continent, and it's the same upper world. However, the void is different. He used his powerful spiritual energy to open up a new world. His spiritual energy covered the entire world he was in. It said that the world he opened up was named the Sky Connecting Realm. It's also said that he has always been expanding his power and fighting for territory. Among them, the most intense one should be the one between him and the Xuanwu monarch. Fengjiu flipped through the information on the table while listening. When he heard Monarch Xuanwu, he was about to ask, but Xianyuanmo's had already asked. Is Monarch Xuanwu the owner of the ancient mythical beast, Shaoli? Xianyuanmo's looked at him and asked. CK was surprised. He looked at Xianyuanmo's and asked, Master, do you know Monarch Xiao? Xianyuanmo shook his head and said, No. I only know that there is such a person. In fact, his master had told him that the 4 ancient mythical beasts were the azure dragon of the east, the white tiger of the west, the vermilion bird of the south, and the black tortoise of the north. He owned the azure dragon of the 4 ancient mythical beasts. He had asked his master who owned the other 3 ancient mythical beasts. He remembered that his master had told him about Monarch Xuanwu, Shaoli. It was said that this person was a legendary figure. Other than the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise of the ancient mythical beasts, there were also the phoenix, the qilin, and other ancient mythical beasts. Other than the ancient mythical beasts, there were also the ancient mythical beasts. Those who owned the ancient mythical beasts or the ancient mythical beasts were not ordinary people. From the information that CK had collected, he only knew the approximate strength of some of the strong people. He didn't know what kind of ancient mythical beasts or the ancient mythical beasts they owned. Cultivators, such as those in the lower realms or some smaller places, had no idea what the highest level of cultivation was. Only when their strength gradually increased would they be able to comprehend and find out. Just like them, they gradually learned that after the immortal emperor was the divine realm, then the low divine realm, mid-divine realm, high divine realm, divine king, and finally the supreme being. They had been cultivating for so many years, and only after coming to the upper world did they come in contact with people who were stronger than them. Divine King. Only a clone. If his real body appeared here, they would be in an even more precarious situation. Fengjiu didn't know what Xianyuanmo's was thinking. She wondered if Hao Er's father was one of the people in the information. Or was it Monarch Xuanwu, Shaoli? After all, according to the information, Shaoli was the #1 enemy of Monarch Xuanwu.